Before there were foldables, the design of a smartphone was basically a rectangle with a screen on it, and some chunky bezels as well. But for a few years, when we started seeing longer aspect ratios, there was a split on how to make use of all that extra screen real estate. Most brands just stretch the display to be longer, with Sony going all the way to 21:9. Well, there was a time when the phone makers thought, well, why not just keep the old aspect ratio, but use the extra screen real estate to display extra information on top. Today, I'm here with 3 phones that had this kind of pseudo second display. So let's see how these phones handled them, huh? If you like the show, help the channel grow with a like and a sub. You're watching Lumerion, and let's get into it. All the way back in 2015, when most phones were still comfortably sitting at a 16:9 display, LG already experimented with new displays, and it's shown in the V10. Back when this phone came out, I knew I just had to get one. It looked so awesome with these solid steel rails running down the 2 sides. The gold-plated rails, honestly, they've seen better days, but they contributed to the military-grade drop protection on this phone. Oh, and the amount of cool, nifty features it packed in were insane. You have a removable 3000 mAh battery, a micro SD card slot, a headphone jack equipped with, for the first time, a hi-fi quad DAC for audiophiles, yeah? And an IR remote to screw around with your friend's TV when you're hanging out over their house. But of course, the star of the show was that display. A gigantic, for the time at least, 5.7-inch screen with a strip on top that served as the secondary display. This shows the time, incoming notifications, and even your signature in some of the most cringe-inducing fonts you can get from a phone in 2015. Not only that, you can swipe to get quick toggles like Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, or even control your music conveniently. And there's even a list of recent apps acting like a dock for you to quickly multitask. Turn off the screen and the second display is always on, giving you a subtle way to show time and date. Next to this display strip, you've got not 1 but 2 selfie cameras, including a standard and wide-angle unit. And all of this you can get in 2015 for just about $500 imported from Korea. Let me tell you, this was awesome. But there's a not so awesome issue. These V10 units had a tendency to cook themselves and run into infinite boot loops. That's actually what finished off my original blue unit, and I don't know by what miracle has this V10 managed to still work till this day. I gotta say though, if LG just stuck with this design and they just updated the hardware, I think many people will still buy this phone even in the big 26. But that's not what LG did, because for the second generation of the V series, they came out with the V20. Gone are the steel rails and polycarbonate back. Now you have an aluminum build that ships in silver or gunmetal. What the V20 lacks in its predecessor's unique style, it makes up for with a much slimmer design that is lighter to hold and is cool to the touch. It also packed in an improved 3200 mAh battery, which is also removable, and probably the last of the flagships to have a hot swappable battery. The ultra-wide selfie camera became the sole unit on the front, and the second display returned with extra improvements, with a bigger font on the time display. Now, I would like to show you some footage of the V20 second display in action, but I rooted this V20 already, and one of the quirks of that process was that the second display is disabled. And I couldn't figure out how to fix this, so I've just left it as it is all this time. Still though, it still acts as a useful always-on display, and when you watch a video, it will show the time and date on the side as well. But was LG the only brand to do this second display thingy? Surprisingly enough, not. HTC, they came out of nowhere and surprised everybody with the HTC U Ultra. It's released just a few months after the V20 debuted. If LG merely adopted the metal, HTC was born in it with the famous HTC One series. So it kind of came as a surprise that HTC just completely abandoned all of that DNA and adopted this shiny and glossy glass panel, which, I mean, I admit it does look very stunning, but you know me, I have a matte skin on this now which still shows the colors, but without the fingerprints. LG relied on on-screen buttons for the V series, but the U Ultra has hardware buttons which light up, including a touch-sensitive home button that doubles as a fingerprint sensor. This gives even more screen space to play with on the HTC. And yeah, pretty much they copied the second display from the V20, though I can't really show you that here. Because of this custom ROM I installed, the U Ultra's entire display area is used, with the notification shade pushed up to the second display area. So now I essentially just have an HTC U Ultra with just the one screen. And here's where the illusion kinda breaks. You see, the LG V series and the HTC Ultra never had a second display. It was always a single long screen, but with the software that changed how the top area works. So all of the enthusiasts who complained about 18:9 screens being too long and thought that these phones with the second displays were better, well, they were actually using 18:9 screens all this time. It was just used differently. But this is also the reason why you don't see this kind of feature implemented anymore. After these phones, manufacturers kinda realized that just giving people more screen area was the way to go. Much like what the custom ROM on the HTC U Ultra did, rather than trying to segment it into like a different function. Unfortunately, there were no follow-ups to these admittedly very cool phones. LG went back to a more conventional screen on the G6 and V30. HTC continued with these fancy looking glass designs with their U series, but they also ditched the second display for a more conventional layout. And after a while, both these brands, who brought with them many neat tricks and cool features, they just finally ran out of steam, with HTC tapping out of the flagship business by 2019 and LG giving up the ghost by late 2020, exiting the smartphone market altogether. And thus, the era of the second display came and went, not with a bang, but with a whimper. Still though, it is undoubtedly an interesting part of smartphone history, and I'm glad that I got to live through that era, even if part of me wishes that we could come back and revisit them once more. Did you get to use these phones with second screens when they came out? Maybe you still use them, or maybe you have some fond memories about them. Tell me about it in the comments. Join my Patreon for extra photography of these videos and get my image presets, which aim to give the stale photos of modern digital cameras some vintage vibes and a bit more personality. Join the channel members to get early access to videos just like these. And if nothing else, I hope to see you on the next video. Bye bye.